Five, four, three, two.
I got the countdown from the legendary dUg Pinnick from King's X. How about that? You don't get that very often. This is
Woo.
episode 8 of The Lounge, and joining me is one of the best musicians, I think one of the best people I've met just after a
Uh-oh.
show. I mean, you, Jerry Gaskell, Ty Tabor, you guys are just one of one as far as people are concerned. You're not half bad as musicians either. How's it going,
Thank
dUg?
you. I ain't got no complaints. Just hanging out today. Kind of got the day off. I'm heading to Indianapolis tomorrow to work on a record with Baldwin.
Oh, nice.
And
That's
so
awesome.
I'm going to spend about 5 days in Indianapolis working with him on it. So I'm just hanging around today, just kind of packing and watering the plants and, you know, doing what I do.
Yeah, you're just vibing. I love it. That's awesome. And you're always working. I mean, you got this crazy work ethic. We'll get to that. We'll absolutely get to that because you got so many side projects. You got
Yeah.
crazy story. So, how are things? Like, what's new in the world of dUg Pinnick?
The only thing for me for the last 4 years is when I turned 70, just seems like the whole world changed in my mind. I just see everything different, and it's been profound for me personally. I mean, it doesn't matter to anybody else. Everybody's got to go through their own thing, you know. But for me, that's been the biggest thing of discarding things that s- stopped working a long time ago and stopped hanging on to things that only gave me excuse to not progress. Um, and also take not taking myself so seriously. I didn't think I did, but I did. And when I woke up one day and went, "What's the joke?" And I started laughing at my whole self, and it was just a wonderful thing to be able to laugh at 70 some years of living and and not have any regrets, even actually just see even the worst of the worst is why I am who I am today. So it's like it's kind of like a thing where you just go, "Oh, I get it now." It's like it's all we have to have it all to find that place that we're looking for in our mind. And so yeah, I wrote a song about it. We are finding who we are. I was like four
Great
decades
song.
ago, but 4 decades ago, but I'm still figuring it out. It's like that's what I love about songwriting is nothing's really changed in my head. It's just a lot of things that I question now are more reality and are more of a guiding light than a distracting one, put it that way. So,
No, I
yeah,
love that.
good.
Enlightenment. We all
And I
need it.
guess so. I hope so. I hope everybody continually becomes enlightened. That's why I don't like to say much about it because everybody's going through their thing. Everybody's growing, everybody's learning, and everybody's figuring out on their own level in their own time.
Absolutely.
And so we're all just crawling up the hill together.
Hey, it's true. You're 74 years old. You look very young for your age, man. You
Thank ya.
always felt that way. My dad has always felt that way. And the way you move around the stage and the way just your mannerisms, I was shocked to find out you were as old as you were. I had no idea because you don't look at all close to 74. So,
Thanks.
how the hell do you keep yourself in such great shape, man?
It has two things. It's hereditary that has a whole lot to do with it. But the other thing is, in my logic, I thought, well, if I have this kind of thing that's happening in my family, both sides of my family, and I seem to have been gifted with it from both sides. I realized that I need to nurture my body and keep it going. It's like when you got a 1955 Chevy and you just take care of it till till it doesn't work no more. That's the way I look at it. I'm this vintage. I was born 1950, and I've been working on this car and keeping it running, and she's doing really good. I mean,
Yeah.
70 years later, take me down to Cuba, put me up against them 55-year-old, Chevys down there. If anybody knows about cars, 55 Chevy was my favorite car. And I was 5 years old when it came out, Chevys. And I was 16, I think it was. I actually bought a 55 Chevy. It was 1968, I think it was. So I didn't know that it was a gem. I really didn't know it was a collector's item at the time because nobody cared. It was just a piece of junk. But if I had kept it and took care of it, right now, that thing would be worth so much. We
Oh
just
man.
don't know that stuff when we were kids. I remember taking the transmission out of it. I burnt the transmission out, and I took the transmission out and put it in backwards. Now to take a transmission out, it's probably like 200 pounds, if not more. And so you have to have this kind of like a special jack to put under the car to unloosen it and then pull it down, put it back up. And me and my friend did it. We're like 16 years old, and so like we kind of don't know what we're doing. And when we got it back in there, I mean, it was really scary. We thought we were gonna kill ourselves. Actually, when we got it in and all bolted in, I got in the car and it was in backwards. So the gears first was in reverse and reverse was in first. So I drove
Oh
that
boy.
car. I drove that car for like a year with the gears backwards. So anybody that drove it, I'd say you gotta change it. But yeah, those are the good old days. Man, forgot about that episode of my life.
Yeah. Oh man. So take me back. Your childhood. I mean, when did you know
Mhm.
you wanted to be, a professional musician?
I never knew.
Never
I've
knew.
never I've never made that decision ever. In my mind, it's just I've been in front of people making music no matter what.
I
I've been
love that.
singing in contests in grade school, singing in the choir, singing at church, singing in the house, singing everywhere to the point where by the time I was a teenager, I used to sing so much everywhere that people used to tell me to shut up. It's like, Doug, you can ride with us, but don't sing along with the radio because I sang everything. And
That's
I
funny.
didn't realize how obnoxious it was, but I was one of those guys who I just never could stop singing. Or if I wasn't singing, I was playing records. No matter who I was with or where I was at, I was in front of the record player playing record player. And most of the time, probably singing along to it. And, relatives, friends, everybody else is drinking, doing their thing or whatever, and relatives were, barbecuing and stuff. I'm sitting there in the corner in front of the record player in as long as I can remember, to the point where being my hands being slapped because I was so little when I decided I wanted to put another record on. I was probably 3 at that time. So it was just this thing about music that I was just obsessed with. And in grade school, I sang in choirs, the choir in grade school and they always had contests for kids. Like I'm the only black kid in my school, and there was only 47 kids. I grew up in a town of 1,000 people,
Oh
and
wow.
so and I'm the only black kid, and I sang all the time, and so they always had me doing something like that. The little colored boy was singing, and they put me in contests, and I'd win the ribbons and stuff. And I got into high school and was in the choir in high school, and got into madrigals, which is the highest form of vocals that they have in the school. And then I went to college and joined the madrigals there. And so I had this reputation of having this voice. And and no one ever told me I couldn't do it. They never told me I could. They never told me I should. They just kind of was used to me always singing and there was never much of a reaction from my mom or relatives or anybody, really. The only one time I remember I got kind of shut down was I was about 15 and we had this little talent show at my high school. Now, mind you, I had moved to another town at that point and there was like 40,000 people went to this town, so there was a lot more people there. But
Yeah.
I was going to high school in this town. And I remember we got up, everybody got up to sing a song, so I'm gonna get up there and sing one of my favorite songs too. And I marched up there and sung this Sly and the Family Stone song or something. But I remember when I sang it, there was a band with us, and I remember when halfway through it, the girls screamed almost from the time I started singing until the time I walked off the stage. And I had never seen that or experienced it ever in my life. And I didn't, I mean, I knew the Beatles did that, I guess, but I didn't even pay attention to that really. But so I walk off the stage and I'm going, said to my best friend, dude, did you see that? Whoa, what? You know, and he calms me down and says, dude, calm down, be cool, be cool, be cool. You know, don't act crazy now. I said, okay, okay. And at that point, in the back of my mind was, it ain't no big deal. So moved on into my life. You see, the thing in my life is everything that I've ever done, someone has always come along to help me not to think it's a big deal. Just so little things, little teeny things. My mother got mad one day. I'm walking through the house and I'm singing at the top of my lungs, probably James Brown or Aretha Franklin. And I was nailing that shit too. Stevie Wonder. Oh, I could do Stevie Wonder. I could do that stuff. And I think my mom was home that day, which she wasn't home normally. And I think she was taking a nap or something because I remember walking to the living room singing and she yelled. She said, would you quit that bellowing? I'm so tired of hearing you singing. You can't sing anyway.
Oh man.
And so that day I never thought it was special. So whenever anybody would say, Doug, want to sing in my band, I'm going, nah, I ain't that good. They go, come on, man, sing in my band. I go, okay. And I'd go do it. And I always, I never had a problem singing for anybody. Nobody ever said no. So get what I'm saying? There was just like this tug of war in the universe that was trying to somehow keep me in a place that it's helped me. I tell you that. You can say it's tragic back then, but right now it's helped me be the man I am today, and I'm happy about that. But there's always been something that drags you in when you think you're getting too much. And I remember when I was about 2 years old, maybe three. I remember things at that age for some reason, and I was singing at church, and I remember my aunt. Well, she wasn't my aunt. She was my uncle's, my great uncle's wife at that time, or girlfriend. And they were alcoholics, and then they got saved, and became these people going to church all the time. And I was singing at this church, and she came up to me and put her hands on my shoulders and started praying for me in tongues, saying all these words and stuff. And she prayed that God would make me a leader, and that God had given me this gift, and all this blah 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 was going to happen. And I remember all of the things that she said, but I had no idea. I'm like, I couldn't even remember I was in grade school. I wasn't even in grade school. So all I knew was I was looking around going, why is she standing there doing this? But I remember what she said. I always remember those crazy things that happened when I was a child. I remember when my grandpa died, my great grandpa died. I was crawling the floor looking for him, and I told my mom the whole story about I crawled the floor and who was in the living room and what color the walls were. I told her this when I was about 25 years old, and she said that was the day Grandpa died. And she said you used to crawl around on the floor looking for him because he used to pick you up and rock you.
Oh
So see, I just fucking remembered everything. So anyway, I don't know
yeah.
what I'm saying on that. When you said the question was, um, uh, what made me want to do what I do? And like I said, that whole story is just basically a part of me just doing what I've always done. I still do it. And and there's no off switch. There's no on switch. It's sort of like you wake up, you're breathing, and you go, I got an idea. I better put it down. It's not like I gotta go do this or somebody needs to hear this or I want the world to hear this or anything. It's just like I just want to make music, write songs, and just sit and listen to the groove and go, man, that's badass. And I'm thinking, nobody's gonna hear this. I'm going, I guess not. I've got over 300 songs right now on hard drives, and I pulled them all out about a week, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I've been going through them all. I pulled them all out, and I listened to every one of them, and I transferred them all over to one hard drive, and I'm gonna master them and put them out. I'm gonna put a dUg demo box set out of 300 songs. I'm gonna put them
Oh,
on
hell
vinyl.
yeah.
It's gonna be a big stack, and it's gonna be a limited edition. But I'm just gonna do it because I was listening to some of the stuff, and I'm going, dude, that wasn't as bad as you thought it was, and why didn't you play that song for everybody? What are you thinking? And there were things in the songs that like maybe one line or one chord change or one inflection the way my voice was I didn't like. So I never went back to it. And now, decades, I mean, I'm listening to songs that are like 4 decades old, and I'm going, oh my God. I'm going, dude, what were you thinking? This is great stuff. What? And I smiled and I kind of got angry at myself too, going, shame on you. You hated yourself so much that you wouldn't allow this stuff to come out. And so, because of the encouragement of the King's X fans who are dUg fans, those people that say, I'll buy anything dUg, I know them. There's a certain number of them, and I'm gonna do it for them because they're gonna love this because they're gonna hear songs how they started out. They're gonna hear King's X songs how they originally were. They're gonna hear how we changed things. They're gonna hear different lyrics. They're gonna hear different takes. They're gonna hear songs with a whole different chorus. I mean, I'm pulling out going, when did I write that? And what was that? And going,
That's great.
and I come and laugh at it. So, I don't know I'm sorry I'm babbling on about that, but I'm really
Oh,
excited about it. I'm excited about that one.
well, I'm
So,
excited too, Doug, because I
yeah,
am one of those people, and my father, which I wouldn't be talking to you today if it wasn't
mhm,
for my father, who's
awesome.
gonna watch this, obviously.
Hey,
Um,
Dad.
his name is Jason Ellenbogen. He actually jumped
Hey,
on
Jason
stage with you
Ellenbogen.
one time.
One time,
You
man.
brought him on stage. You forgot the lyrics or whatever for a song, and you brought him on stage. He talks about it all the time. I don't remember the I don't remember the exact thing. I
I
know
don't
that
either, but
he's
I
tried
can't
to
wait to
find
hear the
it.
story. I can't wait to hear the story, the complete unadulterated story. I wonder what was going on that night.
I don't even remember. It was he went up stage. I don't even know what he's probably like kicking and screaming about what song he's saying. I can't recall
I
it,
mean, I mean,
but
I remember we've done shows where somebody will call out a song and we'll try to do it, and then and it's only happened a couple times, and somebody go, get him to do it. And I'm going, can you do this? No. I go, get up here,
yeah,
and
that was
so,
definitely was one of those things, but
oh,
yeah.
wow. And he was good, I'm sure.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
he does open mic night every Thursday, and they always play a King's X song or two, so, you know.
I wonder if
He
I hope he finds the tape. Because and
he's tried.
what song would I have forgotten?
It might have. I don't know if it was. I don't remember the venue. It might have been Saratoga Winners. I don't remember,
Hmm. Oh, I
but
wouldn't know either. They're all blur.
I can only
Oh, you're
imagine.
kidding. I mean,
Upstate New
I do
York, if
remember a
that
lot.
helps.
I do remember a lot of places, but yeah,
The first
nowadays
time I met you, I was like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years old. It was
oh
outside.
God, was that nice to you?
Oh, you're very nice. It was
Good,
a
good.
sound check.
Hmm.
Yep.
Oh wow, tell me about that.
I couldn't go to the show because it was like, a certain age or whatever. But my dad brought us to soundcheck. I think it was my brother, my sister, and I. So yeah, that's the first time I met you.
So did I talk to you then? And
Yeah.
okay,
You all came
cool.
out and talked.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen
Did you
y'all
get to
throughout
see
my life.
Soundcheck? Did you
Yeah,
see?
of
That's
course.
awesome, man. You got stories. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. And I mean, you guys have come up to like the upstate New York area a decent
Yeah,
amount. So we'll always, if it's around 3 hours, we'll always travel to see you guys.
awesome, awesome.
Um, so I gotta ask you because I could be wrong, but I looked this up. It says that you dropped out of college. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, both times.
All right. Well, I did too. So I loved that because I mean it goes to show you, look what you've done you know, because
Yeah.
I feel like there's, and I mean, no disrespect. Obviously, people are going to watch this with college
Mm-hmm.
degrees and have a certain way. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, I just knew whatever I was going to do in college was not for me. Like I'm not a really structured person. I just do stuff,
Exactly.
you know. This is the most structured I've been probably the whole year so far. So,
You
getting
have
this
that
interview
problem
together.
too. Hey, I have that problem too. You should see how hard I work at trying to keep up with myself. I wrote a song about it even. You know, it's a difficult thing when you're scatterbrained. But
It's a lot,
yeah.
man. I mean, for so basically, yeah, I saw that and I was just like, oh yeah, because I'm basically now. I mean, this is like my side project, kind of like what you've
Mm-hmm.
done, you know, with your side projects. This is my side project because I'm a sports analyst for a living. So,
Awesome.
you know, this is like my
Well, the thing,
passion project I've had for years, and it's
mm,
finally coming together.
wow.
So
There's things you don't have to have a degree to do.
this is
And
true.
there's things that you have to. I remember one thing I didn't make a mental note in the back of my mind. It was subconscious, I think, because I noticed that it conflicted with the way I felt about music, was to teach.
Mm,
I don't like to teach. I just look at a person and go, if you have that gift, you'll figure it out. And the only reason I say this is because that's kind of what I did. But as you figure it out, there will be people that will pop into your life that'll give you a bit of a direction if you have a gift.
I agree with
They
that.
won't let you fall off the cliff. They'll tell you something. You can listen to them or not. I mean, I didn't listen to a lot of people about things, and I should have. But but yeah, going to school for me was I'm dyslexic, and I've basically flunked every class in every school, in every course that I've taken. I've never passed anything.
Mm.
From first grade on up. I mean, I literally have my first grade report card and it's F F F F F F.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, and because I couldn't be still, I couldn't stop my brain from going. The other thing is that, I see too much, I feel too much, and everybody just felt like I was too much. They couldn't deal with all this energy that I had. I'm animated, and I
It's their
ask a lot of
loss, man.
a lot of question I ask, and I call people out. If that's that, what is that? Well, that doesn't make sense. Well, Dougie, shut up! You're too young. You're not supposed to. I'm going, but you said that, but that's not true. Because and they tell me to shut up. So I've always been that little truth teller guy
Oh
that's
yeah.
been told to shut up. Go get back there. And so, you sit back and you just kind of watch the world and you learn a lot.
Like the world around me.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I love that song.
I always tell people, somebody asked me one time, they said, how did you come up with that riff? And I said,
So good.
I used to watch Looney Tunes when I was a kid. And
That's the origin?
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Think about Pepe Le Pew and Bugs Bunny. That's why it's so hard to play on a guitar because it's a piano riff, I think. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
and it's not that I wrote it on the piano. I just wrote it in my head, and I played it in every position I could find on my bass, and I couldn't find a comfortable position. It's one of those licks that's just not conducive to putting your fingers on the fretboard. It's just for simple people. I mean, these virtuosos probably can do it in a second, but for me, it was like it was just I had to mentally figure it out, but I got it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you had a crazy musical journey that led to King's X. Like, I mean, I was just going through it because I mean, I like to do my research and everything, and
Uh-huh.
I know you had like different acts, like the Spurlos. You tried starting Servant,
Yeah.
and even touring with two-time Grammy nomination Phil Keaggy.
Yeah.
What were all those experiences like before you got to King's X?
Oh my God. Some good times, man. Some good, what's the word for it? What's the word for it? They were great learning experiences, and I think I learned it really taught me a lot. And this is not from all the greatness of it, but it taught me what I'm doing and to be real, continue to be real, because the more I got into the music world, the more fake the people became.
Mm.
And I just couldn't understand how they could be these people when em empathically and emotionally I didn't feel that way. I didn't, that's the business side, the gimme gimme, the take, the that all kinds of stuff. So I didn't want to be a part of that. And I learned that in the Christian world, because the first between my 20s and 30, between 20 and 35, I think at least, I was a full-blown born-again Christian. And
Mm.
so at that point, I thought that I was supposed to make music and sing for Jesus, because anybody that was a Christian that had a gift that could make music had to play for Jesus. So that was my thing. I'm singing for Jesus. I'm writing songs for Jesus, and my band is out to save the world. And we were called Servant. And I wrote all these songs that sounded like Yes in Kansas and Gentle Giant and King Crimson and all those are the kind of bands I listened to, those real hardcore prog bands. So I was writing this Jesus music with all these time changes and literally just crazy ass stuff. And even Christians couldn't deal with it. And in the 70s, Christian rock music was basically of the devil, according to most pastors. So I
Oh
was
yeah.
I, I was in a position in my life where all I wanted to do was make music. And so I felt like, oh, I have to make it for Jesus, because that's what I do. And I hope that I can make a living at it somehow, because I'm doing it for God. And through it all, I made it through it, and found King's X, and then moved on from that point. And with because and the other thing too is, sorry, I'm doing this to my nose, it's itching for some reason. Um, with the Christian band, we played everywhere there was a church or a place that would have us play. But when we start preaching, everybody would leave. So we didn't know any better. We were just kids. We were early 20s. And so we could chase people away by just saying Jesus. And so honestly, saying it or not saying it, King's X has been chasing people away from the beginning till now. So I
Oh
mean,
man.
every band, everything I've ever done has never been really, really successful, and I think that's important, because if any of that had changed, I'm afraid of that person who I could have been, because I think about I'm the type of person that thinks of scenario after scenario after scenario, and I go, what would it be like if I was super rich and was as big as Queen or the Led Zeppelin and stuff. And I started looking around at their lives and the stories and the things that they went through, and watching the documentaries, and I'm thinking, you know, I don't think I would have dealt with that real well. I,
Not
I don't I don't think so. It's like
it's
I
a
had a
brutal
hard enough time.
business.
Well, I mean, I had a hard enough time getting through and keeping my sanity in the craziness, and that world where they come from. It's like, dude, I probably would have had scandals and lawsuits and probably been in prison or something. Who knows? Drug
Ah,
abuse
no.
and oh, who knows?
Too nice of a soul
Who?
for that.
Mm,
I get
yeah,
what you're
but
saying. I
that
get what you're
shit can
saying.
drag the soul out of anybody. Okay, that's my
That's true.
point. It's like the universe protected me. I said, no, we're gonna spare you this time around.
I want to say this. Well, first I want to ask you this. Obviously, you guys have been touring forever, been coming out with
Hmm.
music forever. Um, would you ever consider doing a movie or having a movie done with you guys and your story, because I think it's an incredible story. And
Yeah.
my dad's, told me everything, from that he knows. And I
Yeah.
think it would be an amazing story to tell, but I could totally see, based on what you're saying,
hmm
you know?
I think the only way that I would say that could be a movie is after I've passed away, so I don't have to see it because
Okay.
it's never going to be accurate the
Yeah,
way
that's true.
I see it. And the reason I say that is because after growing up with Jimi Hendrix, and then all of a sudden this Hendrix movie comes out, I couldn't barely watch it because that wasn't Jimmy.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. It just wasn't him. And as a friend and a really good guy that did a video, I did kind of like my story. He wanted to do it as a pilot story, and it was based on me. And the guy that was in it, he did a great part, but it wasn't me, and it makes me feel weird to
No, that's
see
fair.
somebody being me that's not me. And I don't know how to explain it, but tell you what, maybe you see it this way. I always wanted green eyes. My little sister has green eyes, and I thought green eyes were really, really cool, especially on a black person. Especially when you're, light skinned, you got these green eyes, like, oh, that's badass. You always want to be something that you're not, right? So, oh, probably around 94, 95. I got contacts. I got green contacts, man. I put them green things in my eyes, which took me a half hour. I got them in my eyes and I looked in the mirror and I went, that's not me. I didn't like what I saw at all. It was like, that's not that guy. And I pulled him out and I've never went back. And that's when I realized is it like somebody says, you ever think about getting some plastic surgery, get something done? I'm going, no,
No
move
way.
something. I said, look, it's taking me this long to finally like what I see in the mirror. You think I'm gonna go fuck it up now? Are you crazy? Especially after what I see out there in the world. When you see people start changing themselves, it's like I can't do it. I mean, I understand that they can do that, and a lot of people like that, and maybe most people like that. Maybe most people don't even notice. But those just little things that I notice in things that stop me from doing the things that other people do. Maybe I just wish I wasn't so particular. Someone said
Hey,
that one time. You're a very particular person.
I like it though.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, don't change yourself. There's no need for the plastic surgery and all
Don't
that.
change for you. Don't change a thing for me. I love that song. God, I love that song. I'm gonna do it as a cover one day.
Hey, I love it.
You know what I'm talking about, right? It's a In Excess song.
In a what song?
In Excess song.
Oh no, I don't.
Oh, check it out. It's called Don't Change. It's a great song. That's what
I
I
will
was talking about.
definitely. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
definitely check it out. Um, so how did you guys meet each other? How did you come together and form such a? I mean, this band is so important to so many people, including obviously you three. How did you find Jerry and Ty?
It was the universe.
Mm,
And I think everything in my life has been sort of that. I haven't made any plans for anything in my life. I just kind of went wherever the door and the direction went. And somehow through it, I've gathered all of this. And I'm still kind of going through, still doing the same thing. And if somebody's coming along with me, they're there. Or if they're not, they all go off and do their own thing. But I've always been this moving train that's been moving. You don't know where it's going, but it's kind of making some things happen, and it's kind of cool. And I look back and go, "Oh, that's nice. What's up here?" It's like it's just all about the eccentricity of it. I think it's just all about just being engulfed in dUg world. And trying to make a difference in other people's lives at the same time, only because I think that's something that we all should do. If we are who we are, it should help someone else in some way, no matter what it is. I'm not saying like go take care of somebody or give them money or whatever. It's just give yourself. If you got something good to give, it, that will translate to other people and they will give it too. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense, and I
and
agree.
it and it's never been a conscious thing. It's always been just something. I mean, it's like it's dude, in my 70s, I'm starting to understand why I do what I do instead of just doing what I do. And people going, why you act like that? Why do you do that? Or why don't you do it? Now I get it, and and there is a method behind it, and there is a result from it, and I didn't know that. Now
No, I like that.
Grandpa's looking back, going, "Oh, I get you now."
Oh man,
But the coolest thing is because I talk a lot about it being in my 70s, but when I did the Hendrix tour with Billy Cox and Taj Mahal, and I mean there was a bunch of people, Dol Bramhall and gosh, Zach, and just Eric Johnson. I mean, you go down the list, but Taj Mahal and Billy Cox, those two guys, they're like 10 years or more older than me. And I remember as a kid listening to them. And I remember when I was 23 years old learning. Do, 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 do. That was Billy Cox teaching me that, and he was playing with Jimi Hendrix. So when I got on that tour, it was like I was just this kid just kind of hanging out with everybody. It was so cool. There was very few people in there were knew anything about King's X. Doyle Bramhall, I've known him forever, and Eric Johnson. We're all from Texas, so we know what's up with each other, and Zach too. But the bottom line is the older people, that were on the road. They didn't know nothing about King's X. They're talking about BB King stories and working in the cotton fields and stuff. And what was so cool about it was I learned to keep my mouth shut and listen. And there were so many stories that I wanted to tell them. They go, "Oh, yeah, but and this happened to me because and that stuff." Well, Douglas, just shut up and listen. And oh my God, the stories that I heard from these guys, volunteered stories that are for me were like priceless, and I'll never forget it. And so even though, I want to yak about how much I'm learning, the bottom line is, there's so much more, and we just got to shut the fuck up and listen.
I like
And,
that.
well, yeah, I have to tell myself that every day too.
Hey, you're talking to somebody who's a motor mouth. I'm trying to talk
Me
the
too.
least amount I can.
Oh God, me too. I bite my tongue, this blood squirting out. Sometimes I go, shut up. I don't care. Nobody cares what you're thinking right now. Just let them talk. Let them have their moment.
Oh man, that
Mm,
is funny.
mm,
So
mhm.
you meet you meet Ty and Jerry. You start King's X.
Oh yeah, we're talking about that. I got us
Oh
off
yeah.
subject.
I'm
Okay,
not
yeah.
getting you off that easy.
Okay, what happened? What happened was my band servant. They all got married, and we're going to this church, and we're like 26, 27. They're all getting married, the guys in the band, and they're starting to have kids, and all of a sudden, and everybody's working 9 to 5. But well, I was even working. Well, maybe I was working 9 to 5. I'm not sure. I didn't have very much 9 to 5s in my life. But anyway, I remember they just said, "Hey, we're gonna do 2 gigs a month. No, we're gonna practice twice a month and do 1 gig a month. It's well, if we can get a gig at a church or something." And I'm thinking to myself, "This is not what I signed up for." And so I went home, and I remember I prayed. And I said, "God, if you open the door for me, I'm out of here." And I don't remember how long after that, but I got a call from the guys in Petra. And Greg Voles was the singer of Petra. And they had heard about this bass player singer that had this band called Servant in Joliet, Chicago area. And they were looking for a bass player. So they called me up and asked me if I wanted to join the band. And I said, yeah. I said, I guess I don't have to pray about this, you know. And so they moved me down to Springfield, Missouri, to make a long story short. And when I got there, Greg says, band broke up. We're not gonna do
Oh,
anything. And I went, what am I gonna do now? I quit my job. I go, oh, I moved everything. I left my church. I packed everything I owned and left. Wasn't going back. And he says, well, we have an opportunity to play with Phil Keaggy. I'm going, okay. And then he said, I got this drummer guy that was going to play with Petra, but he's going to play with Phil too. And he's really, really great drummer. Wait till you hear him. And I remember about 2 days later, we all got together in Greg's basement and jammed without Phil. And we just played some Phil Keaggy songs and we had a fun time. Then we went to Kansas City and tried out basically for his band, which we were under the impression that we were already his band from Greg had told us that it was a done deal. After
Yeah.
we spent a week with him, Phil says, look, guys, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use you guys or not, and I'm still not sure, but you've been here a whole week, so let's give this a try. Because Jerry and I were not that good. We were really scared. We had all of a sudden walked into the big time in our minds and we were playing for like 3,000 seaters, and we had been playing for, and I had been playing for nobody, and Jerry, as far as I know, same. So we were very, very scared, and but we learned, and Phil says to this day that we were his favorite rhythm section. But the problem with us was that me and Jerry play pretty hard. And we kind of slammed that stuff down, and Phil kept saying, "Dude, you guys got to back off a little bit." He says, "I got nowhere to go." And and that's always the way I've played and Jerry too. We've just really been we're an emotional couple guys that like to lambast you. And it ain't because we do it on purpose. It's just like it's just what we do. And it's fun. And so we Phil kicked us out, let us go or whatever after a tour and a half, I think it was. And I said to Jerry, says, well, we gonna do this? He goes, yeah. I said, let's find another guitar player. So we went through another guitar player named Dave Gowdy. He's really, really good. Didn't work out. Lasted a few months. We did a couple gigs actually at church. Actually, this church I went to. It's pretty cool. We were doing these second chapter of Acts songs. If you ever heard of this Christian group, they sound like the Carpenters, but we did them like the Who.
Oh man.
Oh man, there's a song called "You Don't Know Which Way the Wind Blows," and it is a beautiful ballad, a spiritual, about God and not knowing, which way the wind blows, and God's gonna take care of you. And we slam that shit like I won't get fooled again. And I still can't find the tape of it because it was
Oh,
badass. But
there we are on
anyway.
the subject of finding tapes.
Yeah. But yeah, we met Ty. Basically, Jerry and I both were living in Springfield, and so Jerry was going to this Christian college at the time, and Ty was going to the same college. And Jerry, um, had played in Greg Voles, which is the guy that brought us there from Petra. He had a side project, and Jerry played drums in that band, and he had Ty play in that band for a couple gigs if I'm not mistaken. Now, Ty and Jerry probably tell you a better story than I do, but that's kind of what I remember. So Jerry and Ty had played together, and then Jerry and I had played together with Phil Keaggy. Now, Jerry and I was playing with Phil Keaggy at this Christian festival that was in Springfield, Missouri, for like I think it was like 10,000 people or something. It was really cool. And we were playing with Phil Keaggy, and Ty came to the show because Phil Keaggy's his favorite guitar player. Ty's 18. So he watched us do this show, and him and our old sound man, Jay, they were both there, kids basically. And Ty said that he saw this rhythm section just slam blasted him. He says he never couldn't believe how badass they were. And he says he thought I was a really great singer. And I remember that Ty played in a spring fling thing at college, and I went to it, and there was this song. I can't remember the song. It might have been "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" or something. I can't remember, but Ty remembers. But I remember watching this band play, and they're doing cover tunes, and all of a sudden this lead break comes in, and Ty does this lead, which is the same lead he does to this day. I mean, it was like I turned my head and go, "Who is that on lead?" And they found out, and we make a long story short again. We called him, said want to jam. So me and Ty jammed, and then Jerry and Ty had played together. And then finally, I remember in January, I think it was of 1980, I said, guys, let's start a band. Let's call it The Edge. And we're not going to do churches or anything Christian. And Jerry and Ty said, yeah. They actually said, let me go home and pray about it.
Oh man.
And obviously the next day they went, yeah, that's what God wants us to do. Get out of here. But anyway, it was a beautiful thing, and that's how it all happened. So I thank God for that.
The Edge, which I think is an awesome name,
Yeah.
but it's not King's X, man. It's not. You were
Mm-mm.
also Sneak Preview, I believe.
Oh, and
Uh,
then Sneak Preview came along because we had four members of the band also. There was Dan McCullough, who he was the first guy. He came the same time Ty came. Might have been before because Dan lived with me for a bit because I played bass in his band. He
mm.
had a high school band and they needed a guy to play bass for a tour. And they knew I played with Phil Keaggy, so they paid me $600 to do it. And I was broke, so I did it. And that's when I met Dan. And I said, Dan, well, let's stick around and we'll have start a band. And then Ty came along right somewhere in there. And so we had two guitar players. We did our first gig and Dan quit. Dan said, look, guys, you guys are too good. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. And he moved back to Iowa. I mean, immediately. And then Ty said, we need another guitar player. So he said, what are we going to do? And so he said, well, I got a friend in Mississippi called Kirk Henderson. So we called him up and he came up, joined the band and lived in my house. I had a house where the whole band lived except Jerry and his wife, but everybody else lived there. And it was just a two-bedroom kitchen and living room, but everybody lived there. I mean, we had like eight people. I think it was eight people there. People slept on the couch. People stayed up all night. It was crazy. I cooked. We were all on food stamps. They'd give me the food stamps and I'd buy a bunch of spaghetti fixings and stuff and make spaghetti. Those are good old days. Um, but yeah, where was I going at? Oh, so you said how that's how we started. And so we just started playing around town. And it seemed like whenever, whatever I did, including King's X, a group of people that just were hooked. And with King's X, it was the same way. It was like we could play around clubs and not that many people would show up or people would leave, but there was always was one or two. And it always ended up, you know, almost enough to fill a little club up. But these are the ones that are still with us to this day. You know, people come and go, dude, I have a friend. Oh, yeah, yeah, gotta be friends now after this many years. Um, Him and another friend, I forget his name now, but they came to see us in Vegas on our first King's X tour. And we used to play, if it was three people, we played like we were playing for 100,000. We've always done that. It ain't got nothing to do with anything other than that's what we've always done. And we were playing, we did our whole record and walked off the stage, and these two guys screamed and yelled, and we came back and did another couple songs, and we remained friends to this day. Watch their kids grow up, watch them, I mean, hang out, have dinner with them now, you know. So I guess my point is there's always been that just keeps you going. And that's the way it's been with King's X. So we bounced around Springfield, Missouri area for 5 years. And then this guy named Wayne Donahue from a Christian label called me up and said, are you tired of playing for Satan? It's time for you to play for Jesus. You better think about it. And then I went, what? And he started laughing. He goes, no, just joking. He says, we need you guys, you guys want to be a backup band for one of our artists and we'll pay you. And we're going, okay. I says, you got to move us to Texas. And they go, okay. Because we were starving to death at that point.
Mm.
And we were ready to do anything. So and they promised us. They said we're a subsidiary of A&M Records, and they says we'll help you get a record deal on a regular label. Because we says we don't want to be on a Christian label. We ain't gonna do it. And so we went down there and we played with this guy named Morgan Cryer. And we did a tour with him. We rocked them motherfuckers so hard that the pastors of the churches told him you can come back, but you can't bring that band. because the kids went crazy. We rocked them little kids in youth groups, and the past youth groups were freaking out. Because rock and roll, back then, this was like 83, 84, it was like, that ain't cool, And so,
It's always cool. But I know what you mean.
well, you know what I'm saying. Well,
Yeah.
Striper fixed that,
Yeah. No,
They changed that.
I get what you're saying entirely. How did the name King's X come together? How did you come
Sam
up with that?
Sam Taylor called us that because, all right, when we name things, see, the first name, The Edge, is my favorite name just because I came up with it and I was just dumb and that was the name I thought was cool and it just became us. Second name, Sneak Preview, was only because we couldn't come up with nothing because nothing seemed cool because we hadn't lived with nothing for so long. And through arguing, laughing, and just getting ridiculous, we just settled on Sneak Preview out of exhaustion, literally. And and the night we announced our change in name, Jerry did a drum roll and I announced it, and not a person in the room clapped. Anyway, that was in Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri, yeah. Okay, so where am I at? Okay, names. So we got a record deal. We're called Sneak Preview. Sam Taylor, our manager at the time, says, "Okay, we got a record deal. We're not going to put this record out and call it Sneak Preview." And so again, we went through the whole list of names, and we got crazy and ridiculous and couldn't come up with nothing. And Sam just said King's X, and he kind of pushed that on us. Um, and it had a reason too, I mean, we all, with Sam, you had to argue your point. You had to logically, emotionally, and spiritually argue your point. And then usually you would still lose because he could psychologically beat you down and show you where you're flawed at. And that's why you feel that way about a riff, you know, because your mother left you. You don't like that riff. That's why. So stop, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you used to get that in depth with Sam. But uh where am I at?
The oh yeah, so he came up with King's X just
Yes.
out of the
His
blue?
no, no. Okay. King's X in Texas means this. If you're having an argument and somebody whistles or somebody says heads up or somebody says hey, in Texas it's King's X and everybody shuts up. That's
Hmm.
it's an old saying that hardly anybody's. I've only heard it said twice in the 30 years I lived in Texas, okay, by natives there.
Wow.
So it's a name, and also that Sam's brother's band was called King's X, and they were a band that formed in 69 and broke up in 69, I think.
Wow.
I could be mistaken, but
That's
in
crazy.
yeah.
There's a lot to that name, and
hmm
I never would have guessed.
And the other thing is this Texas thing. Sam really the ZZ Top thing is a big connection to us because Sam Taylor and Bill Ham are first cousins.
Mm.
And so they both had these two little bands. One is big band that started out as a little band, and then there's this little band with his little cousin who's trying to make his band as big as the big band and his big cousin's band. Okay, so there was, if you can only imagine the rivalry that went on between those two. I
Oh boy.
mean, the band and us, I see Billy. Hey, Billy. Hey, Billy came to see us play our first gig in Houston. He came in and says, "Hey, sounds good," and then left before the first song is over. And we've known each other forever. We love each other. We're that other little old band from Texas. But anyway, so there's always all this history going back. Now, where was I going with this? Um, about there was a point I was trying to make about the two doing what it was. Oh yeah, so there was this thing in Texas where Sam and I would say Bill Ham also the whole ZZ Top thing, and there's a thing about being loyal to Texas because Texas is its own state, its own country. I mean, um, living there, you got to live there in Texas to understand it. But it's like
Mm.
living in your own country. It's just a different way of everything, and it's awesome. But I coming from Chicago, growing up in Illinois, I didn't realize that almost every state could be its own country. You know, literally when I go to Europe, and you know how different every place is, the same thing in the U.S. We're just states. But anyway, it's so one thing about Texas is the biggest thing about ZZ Top is they champion Texas always. They sung about Texas. They played for Texas. They did things for Texas. Everything was all about Texas. And what drew me into ZZ Top back in Chicago days was about Texas. Everything was about that. I wanted to move to Texas. I wanted to live in Texas. Okay, so 20 years later, you know, because I'm listening to ZZ Top on Trace Hombre's album. I'm 22, I guess. You know, now I'm 32, and all of a sudden I get a chance to move to Texas. I'm going, are you kidding me? You know, so that was very exciting. And then meeting Sam, who worked with ZZ Top. So to make a long story short, the King's name King's X is a Texas name. The front of the album cover is a picture of the world with the Texas skyline of Houston. Um, he tried to gear everything into a Texas theme with King's X in the early days. And it was, you know, he believed that if you were loyal to Texas, they would always, you know, always buy you records and always be what, you know. And, you know, Texas is, you know, we love Texas and they love us. So it's all cool. But I mean, that's where all that Texas stuff came from. Because, okay, to say all that, I gotta say one thing. When our first record came out, now this is, I don't know if you can get the humor in this, but I did because we had been living in Houston for 4 years, I guess. Okay, now there's hundreds of bands in Houston. Everybody's trying to get a record deal. All of a sudden, King's X has been there for 3 years or so. And we get a record deal, and everybody's freaking out. Who's this band? So I go to the music store down in the Montrose area, and there's our album, Out of the Silent Planet, and it says Texas bands. Then it gets to King's X, and it says sort of. And that's when I realized, man, that jealousy is, I mean, that's really subtle. Sort of.
Oh man,
Oh yeah, Peter.
that's crazy. They were on that one. Good lord. I
Oh,
mean,
those are the good old days.
you guys, it's incredible what you've done because you've remained active for more than 4 decades, and
Yeah.
I just sit here wondering how the hell you did it. I mean, all these records. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you think about it. How have you guys, as a trio? Because the first thing I think of band trio, I
Mm-hmm.
think of you guys, and I think of Rush.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Those are the only trios I think of immediately that come to my mind.
At this point, yeah.
So, how did you manage to go this long and you're still going?
Hmm. You know, people ask me that all the time, and geez, I think Ty said it once. He said the reason we're still together is because we didn't get famous and rich. And I agree with him there. I'm sure that the woes of that would have somehow split us up because I ain't gonna speak for anybody else, but I'm not the most stable person back in those days. When it came to just, you know, I was easy manipulated, put it that way.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Oh, and but the other thing is the truth, the way I think about it, if I really dig down in my soul, is that we just stayed together. Um, we've had our ups and downs, we've had our horrible moments, we've had our fights. I tell people all the time that I hate them motherfuckers as much as they hate me, and we love each other more than anybody else in the whole world. I would kill both of those guys sometimes, strangle them to death, and I would die for them. And I know that they would do the same. So if anybody wants to understand why we're together, there is just something between us that the universe won't let go of. Because we've tried, we've thought about, let's split up, let's break up. Well, this ain't working. Why should we do this anymore? And we just don't. We just won't. We don't even sit there and go, I'm not. The only running joke I always have is the band will never break up because not one of us wants to be blamed for breaking the band up.
Oh man, and it would be like a funeral if you guys broke up. I mean, everything that you've done, you know, you gotta end it just naturally, I guess. And that's
it's gonna. I always wonder. It'll be what it is. We're getting. I ain't gonna say we're getting there. It's like, well, you can only do it for so long, right?
I mean, looks like you're trying to shatter the ceiling there. I mean,
Yeah, Mick Jagger shattered the ceiling, man.
hey,
That guy can run. That guy runs 10 miles every show. Ain't no fucking way I'm running 10 miles a show. Okay, I would like to. I would love to build up to that, but my brain says, Douglas, you ain't gonna work your way up to that. You just ain't gonna do
oh
it.
man. I get it, man. I totally get it. You
But Mick Jagger is an inspiration. I mean, look at that
mm.
guy, man. Wow.
Yeah, but so are you. And you've mentioned, being a black man, right? And seeing, I mean, he may never come out and say this, but I look at like Lejean Witherspoon from Seven
Mm.
Dust, you know?
Oh, it was
I
John, yeah.
I look at Crispin Earl, who I've met
Mm.
from the Veer Union. I mean,
Mm.
these are guys that I don't. People like you have allowed. You've basically created a path. You've trailblazed for these people. It's not all just Jimi Hendrix, And so I think you deserve a lot of credit for that. I do, because it.
Oh, I gotta remember that one.
Hey, I'm
I
serious, man.
love that. I love that.
I think it
Yeah,
matters. I mean,
I gotta write that down.
myself for sure. Like, I definitely want more representation in rock music. I think it's
Yeah.
really cool when you have a black
Mm,
frontman. I do. Um,
thanks.
I think it's a big deal. And I think like there's a lot of things that separate you guys. And a big thing, I'll tell you this right now, is your harmonies. Like my dad
Mm,
used to tell me, they're like a heavier modern day Beatles. That's
yeah.
why that's like what he would always tell me is like, that's how he would describe you. Of course, me when I was little, I didn't know who the Beatles were, and I never listened to them until I, dropped out of
Oh
high school
wow.
or dropped out of college. So yeah, and then I got huge into the Beatles. So now I get it. But
Awesome.
then I was just like, it just
Awesome.
went over my head. I was just like, really? I want to hold your hand. That's all I knew. And then they
Yeah,
had so much more, to them after that.
true.
But you have mentioned now multiple times like we didn't get famous or not as successful or whatever. But I do think, and I've always stood by this. I remember my dad bringing this up, and I remember looking at the quote, Pearl Jam's Jeff Amont, famously dubbed you guys, King's X, as the inventors of grunge. How did that make you feel hearing that, kind of praise from someone that's considered one of your peers, but also from a band that has like really, I mean, they're huge.
um, it was really, 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 really so cool for him to say that, especially when nobody else would.
Yeah.
Especially those who would agree with him, who wouldn't say nothing. And it meant a lot for him to publicly say that. Because I mean, I've been told how influential King's X has been by almost every musician I've run into, but very few. will make a big statement about it. Like they'll mention the classics or the people like you were saying, like it ain't just Hendrix. And I'm going, I
Yeah.
keep forgetting that there's a whole group of people that carry the torch. I listen to Mother's Finest and St. Louis Sheiks and there are other people that, Prince, and there's people that just continue to carry the torch. So, yeah, and for us, I think we just carry the torch of a type of music that needed to be explored. Drop D tuning isn't nothing new. We just decided to play She's So Heavy in drop D tuning. That's about that's about it. Drop D country music with Beatles singing, and because drop D tuning is basically bluegrass music, and Ty listened to bluegrass when he played it when he was in grade school and stuff. His dad and his brother played banjo, and so he comes from that, and he would play these riffs with this drop D thing, and he just took the distortion up, and there it is, and grunge happened, and it was the easy thing, to do, I think, and I think that when a lot of people heard the difference in the sound of when you drop D tune, there's just a different tone. And we weren't used to it at the time. Everybody's used to it now. It's like everybody's even lower. It's not even special anymore. Drop D tuning is like, what's that? That's like weak. It really is. Now, regular drop D tuning is like, huh? Yeah, we got corn, we got Meshuggah, fuck that. But but back in the day, just drop D was like everybody goes, well, Metallica was in E, and that was the heaviest shit, Slayer. That was the heaviest shit we ever heard. Now, I mean, every now and then Eddie Van Halen would drop his E string down to D, and Tony Iommi would tune down, on some Black Sabbath stuff, but at the end of the day, the whole drop D way it's played and how you phrase it and stuff is a unique way that bluegrass players play, and it's an easy, simple way. Someone told me one time that the easiest way to change the world with your music is make up something cool that any kid could play as soon as he picks up a guitar. So think about when grunge hit from Helmet to you name it. Filter. Everybody was. I mean, within 6 months, there was like a whole nother wave of music, and people said it was grunge because it was grungy like Neil Young.
Mm. Yeah, it's one of those things where I always felt like just getting to know your band, getting to see you guys live. I'm like, yeah, you
hmm
guys absolutely should have been bigger. Um
That's
Without
all
a
right.
doubt. No,
But
I know, but still though, there is like I wish everybody like my age knew King's
hmm
X. Like I wish if I
yeah.
said King's, I mean, I my best friend who will be watching this, I got him into King's X, but
Hey,
like,
dude.
yeah,
Hey, dude.
but it's one of those things where I just think that like Nirvana comes around with Nevermind and just kind of wipes
Oh,
pretty much
yeah.
everything that was being built. And
hmm
it's like I don't want to take credit away from Nirvana because like I love Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. I'm not
hmm
at all
hmm
trying to crap on Dave Grohl, but it's one of those things where it's like, how good was that for the movement?
Well, they wiped out the germs.
Hmm.
If you want to look at it in a pharmaceutical way of looking at it, we were just burnt out on late 80s everything. And it was like a virus. Everything sounded the same. It was on the radio, it was on TV. Everybody looked the same, the song sounded the same. And when grunge came out, there was like right before that there was King's X, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Faith No More, and Jane's Addiction, all within a year of each other. All of a sudden there was this new thing that was happening. Nobody was following anybody, but we were all listening to each other. And kids wanted something new. And I think that because of those bands and King's X, the grunge thing, it kind of, those bands kind of helped uh, push people to look towards Seattle, which was coming out with some radical stuff.
Yeah.
That was inspired by these bands, I feel us included. Now I know that Kim told me from Soundgarden that he showed Chris Cornell drop D tuning in '85, and Ty wrote in the New Age in 1985, or Pleiades in '85, I think it was. So both bands had never heard of each other, had started writing songs and dropped D tuning. Chris and I both. I've gotten to know him before he passed away and stuff. We talked about tunings and all that stuff. But and so there was like a neck and neck Soundgarden King's X thing happening where we were that generation that was daring to do different tunings and different timings. And we had these two different singers. And you listen to some of the Soundgarden and King's X stuff, and there was times where you're going, which band is which, like Outshined and Spoon Man, and you know what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
Black Hole Sun and stuff. And even though nobody's gonna go, oh, that sounds like King's X, but I know that we were all listening to each other, and well, not all. There was always like one person in all those bands that was a King's X fan. The rest of them didn't care, couldn't care less. But that one person always would bring in that thing that pushed it towards that vibe, which was pretty cool. I mean, even Pearl Jam, it's like they don't sound like King's X, but put on the first record and listen to that rhythm section. That is all about that's stuff, that's us. Kings, me and Jerry slamming that shit. So it's like, and we all, I think we all started to see this new thing happening. We all started pushing each other, and we all became fans of each other. Pantera the same way. Everybody was like going, "Uh-oh, we found something, guys," and they all gave. Most of them would give King's X credit, but in the soup of everything, we were all kind of pushing each other's buttons, in many ways, and discussing it and talking about it. I remember I got in Dime's truck one time and I says, man, Fogger display, let's hear it. And he played me something, I forgot. And I go, dude, now in Dime's truck, he had a PA in his truck, so it was bone crushing. And it crushed me, okay? And I'm thinking, dude, this is killer, man. I said, how did you get this? I said, that's the heaviest I ever heard you. And he looked at me and said, heavy. Check this out. And he looked over and pushed a button, and all of a sudden, give me $1 or give me 50 cents. And I remember the whole PA went, and he said, that's heavy.
I love
And,
that.
and
Oh,
it's like we all would do that to each other. Me and Chris would talk about, I remember one time we said, they were doing Super Unknown, I think it was, we were doing Dog Man. I think those are the records. And we were laughing about how high we sing all the time. And I said, dude, we need to sing lower. We need to croon like a lot of our favorite singers. And so all of a sudden you got Black Hole Sun and you got Flies in Blue Skies, and we didn't plan that. We just kind of everybody was just kind of running down the racetrack, just grabbing these things and writing these songs and making this thing until we burn it out, and it's burnt out.
oh
And,
yeah.
and, and it had a good 10 years. Nirvana just, I think what I was saying about Nirvana is I think they kicked out the germs. I shouldn't say it that way.
But
They
I don't
kicked
think
out.
you're one of the germs, though.
No, 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 no. They didn't kick us out. We are. King's X is something. What I mean by germs is like the glam bands and the
Oh,
and the
yeah.
things that the music that had infested everything. I think that grunge was making a statement, but Nirvana came and said, you guys need to hear this. We're gonna move this out of the way." And then all of a sudden, everybody goes, "Oh, I didn't realize that was happening," because the Guns N' Roses, all that stuff. It
Yeah.
just pushed it away, and the younger kids went, "Oh man, I don't have to listen to my brother's records anymore." And it's just, and the thing is, everybody does their thing, and everybody changed the world with it. And that's what's so cool about the history of music. Is like everybody made their statement and we made ours. And when you were talking about the germs. I'm not saying we're the germs. We're the fine wine, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
we're, we're that fine wine that sits on the shelf and hardly anybody wants to buy it because it's expensive and it tastes too good, you know. And I know that now, and I have no problem with it. I say you can keep me on the shelf. I'd rather somebody taste it that knows what they're tasting than somebody just to sit there and have a swig of it and hang out. Fuck that,
I, I
you know.
I'm with you on that. And I think it makes the experience when you go to a King's X show, it makes it very yeah, I mean it's an emotional, authentic, and it's like an intimate experience type deal. Like everyone's just like a super fan. And I don't think you get that with every single well, I can tell you don't get that with every single band because you could go to say, I
Mm,
don't know, Fallout Boy for instance, pop
mm,
punk, and you know that there are people there because they heard Thanks for the Memories on the radio,
yeah.
and there are actually people like myself that have followed them from the beginning to now. And it's like with King's X is like nobody is there that just got into King's X. Everyone's
True.
like a super fan. So, that I think that's really cool. And I think that's something that, you can kind of hold there. But, I also think, you know, looking at It's Love, which is your biggest hit, I don't know if it cracked the top five, but it was very close to cracking the top five in the rock
I don't
charts.
remember, but it,
Um,
it was the biggest one though.
Yes, it was. And, I want to ask you what the feeling was like when your band started to get some serious recognition, being played on MTV, things like that. Like, obviously, I understand, like, you didn't end up exploding.
Hmm.
That was pretty big. Like, not long after that, you're playing at Woodstock, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what was all of
The,
that
the,
about?
the thing was we got signed and they started pouring all this money into us, like they do all the bands, but nobody would buy it. It's sort of
Mm,
like when Coke put out Clear Coke and they made the campaign and nobody bought it and they took it off the shelf and now you might find it in a mom and pop store. That's kind of our scenario. It's like they jammed us. They spent a lot of money. They gave us, they did a lot more for us than some of the bands that were huge. And the thing was, it just wouldn't bite. You can throw that worm in the ocean, but if people ain't gonna bite it, they're just not gonna bite it. And there was nothing that we could do to get the masses to follow us. And whatever the reasons were, the thing in my mind was that all the other bands that I knew and looked up to became huge because they were their authentic self. All of them, good and bad. The
yeah.
flaws, love them or hate them, they were not afraid. They were unashamed. They went out and if they had to make a fool of themselves and they did it and created great art. That was the thing that was missing in my life, I think, was that the fear of Christian backlash, the fear of growing up in a Christian world and leaving it, the fear of the dysfunction that would continually make me feel bad. It's sort of like growing up with a very abusive parent. And even though you're away from them, you still act like that little scared kid that's afraid to be yourself when
Mm.
everybody. And for me personally, I ain't gonna speak for Ty and Jerry, but I believe that even though I thought I was wearing my heart on my sleeve, I was still holding back so much because I didn't even realize it. While I watched my other friends, Laney and Chris and Chester and all of them pouring their hearts out and acting out. And I can't do that. I'm too reserved and I don't like attention. I don't want to do that. It's embarrassing to me. So, there's a lot of things I could have been in the media that I could have played. I could have played my cards right and became that guy, but at the end of the day, I knew it wasn't me. And I thought, the only way my part of King's X that I can sell is being me, which is the nice guy, and that's who I am. I am me. I don't hide anything of that, but I'm not an extrovert. I'm not going to go out and do crazy shit. But I will always be me, and I will always be honest, and that's something that people kind of don't want.
Yeah, that's true.
I can,
And
I get along with everybody. I don't cut anybody down really. I don't find the right to. I don't go around saying that band sucks or that band sucks because that's stupid. Or
yeah,
somebody says, I play guitar better than Slash. I'm going, how do you play better than the original? It's like, logically, do you realize what you're saying? You
I
know,
know it's it happens so often, especially.
God.
And the thing to your point is that, rock is in the fight of its life to try to, I mean, it's hip hop, it's all this
Mm,
stuff, right?
hmm
And rock like needs unity. So like when you see stupid shit like, oh, this guy's going after the lead singer of Korn, or like what, it's
hmm
like, why don't you come together and try to unite this genre
hmm
so it's king and it's number one again, like on the
hmm
charts, not just in
Well,
general, you
one
know?
thing is one thing is that all that is dead. There are no charts, there is no radio, there's nothing for the
Well,
last
that's
10,
true.
in the
Yeah.
last 14 years, actually, there has not been a rock band on the top 100. Not one rock band, there are none. I search every week on Apple or iTunes and Tidal for rock, and it's just there's just nothing there. Now, I follow a lot of rock bands who sound like they grew up in the 70s, okay, and they're in their 20s. Oh, there's a lot of them out there. And they're all playing for people. The thing is, what people don't understand and realize is rock and roll is not dead. It's just underground, just like punk didn't die.
Yeah.
Metal hasn't, it's all there. Kids are going, kids are packing places out, and bands are making money.
It's
We
so
just
true.
don't, we just don't know it. And because we're not hooked into that. There's a whole nother world out there, kids. My godson came to visit me about excuse me. My godson came to visit me about 2 months ago. He's 18 and he's really into hardcore. And I don't pay much attention to hardcore. I mean, it's like I haven't listened to stuff like that since the 80s, and to me, it's like an old genre that's kind of dead. This kid pops up. He spends a whole week with me, and the whole time he played these hardcore videos on YouTube. And some of them he was in dancing and stuff in these houses and shit. And I took him to music stores and he'd buy these hardcore records and stuff. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on? And I'm seeing these guys in these bands that this music, nothing's changed. They're still doing the same thing. Kids are still slam dancing, just the moves are different, and people are still making a living at it and they're still selling records out of the back of their cars. Now, when I was 10 years old, that's exactly what we did in the 50s with the blues records. They brought the records down from Chicago, Chess Records, and sold them out of the back of the car. And my cousins would buy that 45 for $1 and bring it in the house and play it. You know, um, so the thing is, we have to look at it this way. The gold rush is over, but the
Mm.
gold is still out there.
Ooh,
And
I
and
like
the
that.
gold can be found. You just and it's right in our face. We don't have to dig for it. It's right in our face. We're just not paying attention because we're looking for something else. We're looking for the next big thing, the next Freddie Mercury, the next Prince. That's not going to happen. Those people are already out there. They're on the charts right now, and they're all bought and paid for. Your Lady Gaga's on down, and they're amazing. I mean, watching the Grammys, I cried last night, night before last, because it was like, dude. I hate every one of these bands, and these songs are making me cry. These are great. These are incredible. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to go pull this record out and listen to it now. That's what it did for me. I'm just going, when you spend that much money on a person to sell them, then they're not getting shit. It's
Mm.
gotta be top notch. I mean, I look at Beyonce, and she won the award, and I'm thinking, oh, Cowboy Carter, who fucking cares? I mean, really, it's like, what? And then she gets up there and she seemed genuinely shocked that she won. And all of a sudden, I saw another side to her coming out about, just the awareness of black musicians and being not pigeonholed and stuff. And well, she does have something to say here. And then I thought, and then she announces her tour. I'm going, she's 100 fucking years old. She's getting ready to tour, and I'm going. I'm watching her on the Super Bowl, and she's fucking doing them moves, man. And I'm thinking this girl is thick. I mean, she's like a grandma. She could be a grandma, okay? And she's out there working that shit like it ain't hard at all. And so I go, I can't cut them down. That's their life and that's what they work for. And we all have our past to follow. So back to rock and roll and metal. It's alive and well. I mean, think about
I agree.
sleep token
You like
issues.
Sleep Token?
You fucking kidding me?
Oh my
You know,
God, Doug.
I
I gotta
play
take
the
you out for a dinner sometime after
okay.
a show.
I would love to go see them. Now, I like them in two ways. One is I play the instrumental versions a lot, okay? Because the singing, it's amazing, but he brings me
Mm.
down, and I am not that guy no more. I just cannot sing about I love being a blood sport. I've never had a relationship, and if I have one, it ain't gonna be us killing each other. Okay, I don't get the art in this, but I noticed that my little sister is obsessed with that band. And I'm going, okay, so he's saying something that she relates to in the
Mm.
songs. And I listen to the songs and I listen to what he's saying, and I'm going, whoo, this is deep. This boy can word shit that fucking fucks with me. So I just can't deal with it. So I turn his voice off and just listen to the music. And the music's amazing. And and when I listen to that stuff too, what I love about it is that we're all still on that gravy train of trying to make the heaviest melodic music that there is.
Mm.
I mean, when we came out, yeah, people were going, man, they're so heavy, but they're so melodic, and then you keep moving on, and other bands come out, and decades later, other bands, and now here we go again, another band who's taken the soft and loud to the furthest extreme that I have ever heard, emotionally and brutally dark in a profound, beautiful way. I have never experienced anything like that again. And if I ever meet them, I might be able to tell them that.
It's crazy. My one of my shows, my co-host, she showed it to me,
Hmm.
and I was like, "What the hell is this?" Like, I heard the summoning for the first time, and I'm like, "I'm
Oh,
in. Whatever the hell
yeah.
this is, I'm in."
Hmm.
Like, I showed my dad, and he's not quite into the screaming and all that, the harsh vocals. He loves your type
Dude,
of screaming, but
dude, there's
you
only
know,
one song he screams in.
well, that's what I try to tell him. But
No, tell him that there's only one scream, and tell him play the instrumental of the one song that he screams through it. What is it? Gods. It's called Gods. It sounds like Deftones on 12.
oh yeah,
Okay, and I take the vocals out of that, and it was like, are you? And at the end of it, where they do that, dun, 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 and then
oh man.
they're so low, you're going, okay, this is the baddest riff I ever heard in my life. It's not going to get any better than this. This is going to end here. And they dropped it down a whole nother step. Like they had to grab some other guitars just to do it. I mean, whatever they did, it went down. And then when they did the slide up, the bass player went up a half step less than the other two guitar players. And it went, and it made this weird fucking evil sound. And they wiggled their strings and slid back on. I'm going, okay, where do you go after this? And then they ended with chong, kong, kong, kong.
Oh
And
my
I'm
god.
going, I just dropped on the floor and I went, Jesus, I've been trying to write this song my whole life. I give up.
No, never give up.
No, never. But I mean, when I hear songs like that, it's like those are the songs I've heard in my head my whole life. Not to say that I knew that formula or that I could come up with that riff, but there's a attitude and an energy that I've always loved in music, which is the surprise
Mm,
and how melodic you can make, how melodic and brutal can you make something and make it work,
absolutely agree.
or how beautiful you can make something to the point where you want to cry, and without any darkness in it at all. And I think with King's X's, we've traveled all, we've done that. I mean, where do you go to get away? It's like I remember playing that, and I'm going, dude, this is like Carpenter's. It's like, Jesus, there's just like, yeah, I could play this on Top 40 radio. There's nothing on it that would scare you, because I mean, Top 40 radio is, they're so what is it? They have so many rules with your music, and I thought, yeah, you can do that. People, I mean, we've tried everything, and not because we were hoping something will stick. It's just that's just what we do. It's just the fun of
Man,
it.
it just brings me to like my dad, his favorite song, Summerland. It's just like
Mm,
he's played. I can't even
mm,
tell you how many times, Doug, whether I
mm.
was a little kid or I'm
Uh-huh.
grown up, he played that on his acoustic guitar. Like it's
Oh,
just he has played that for forever. It's obviously
that's a very difficult song. Ty wrote that, and I've never sat down to try to play it on the guitar, but he even said it's one of the hardest things he's ever played. I
Oh
think that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
I watch him doing it. Keep in mind, not a musical bone in my body, Doug.
Oh,
I'm just an
no.
enjoyer.
Awesome, awesome.
I could do harsh vocals. That's about it. But
Yeah, I like that. The
yeah,
harsh vocal singer.
yeah. No, I can't sing, but I could do the screams from like metalcore bands,
I
like we were
love
just
that.
talking about. But
I admire y'all. As long as everybody, what I don't like about scream or metal screamers, the only thing I don't like is if I can't understand what they're saying.
I agree.
And that's why I always love Slipknot. I always know what he's saying. I mean, it's just like there it is. And even Meshuggah, after I started watching word videos, then I'm going, oh, I get it. Because my God said to me, I said, dude, I said, do you understand what they're saying? He goes, yeah, every word. And I'm thinking, well, I remember that old people when I was young couldn't understand what we were saying in rock and roll either. So, it's like this is what I love about getting old in rock and roll is I am not gonna be like them old folks that screwed me over when I was young, telling me that ain't good. I say, Uncle Richie, listen to this. This is the Allman Brothers, they're a blues band. I put it on today. He take it off. Tell you that ain't blues. This is blues. And they put it on to BB King or something. And I'm like 20 years old or something. I go, oh.
Oh,
I
man.
just felt like they just didn't even give it a listen.
Yeah, well, my dad is kind of like that, but I gotta give him credit. Well, he didn't like. I don't know if you ever heard the band Ice Nine Kills. I'm a big horror movie fan, and they do
Okay, no.
horror movie themed
Mhm.
songs. It's
Oh.
really it's like the lead singer Spencer Charnas sings like legitimately sings, and there's harsh vocals and screaming and all of
Mm-mm.
that, and it's like a really nice blend. But the one where I'll give my father a lot of credit, he's gone to see them quite a bit with me, is
Mm-hmm.
Starset. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Mm-mm.
Cinematic rock. It's like
Oh,
take
wow.
soundtracks from, let's say, do you know Hans Zimmer?
I've heard that name.
So like soundtracks for like maybe like a space movie,
Okay.
sci-fi,
Mm-hmm.
or even like Pirates of the Caribbean. You
Okay,
take
yeah.
the soundtracks of that and then you mix it with like a Breaking Benjamin sound like rock. It
That's
is really
interesting.
good.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. So but that's the thing is that like my dad actually listened to me on that band. It was like he listened to him and is like, wow, this is really good. Now he loves them.
That
So
is so cool that you and your dad listen to music together. That's
oh, of
awesome.
course. It's been such a big part of our family, and that's why like,
Uh,
King's X has been such a big part of my life.
mm.
I mean, it's been crazy. But I wanna ask you, because I mean, we've kind of gone all over the place.
Yeah, we
I
have.
really appreciate you, man. You taking a lot of time out of your busy schedule, but I want to ask you, you've released 13 studio albums as King's X. Which one is your favorite? I'll tell you right now, mine is Dogman because I love that sound
Hmm.
so damn much. But which one is your favorite?
I don't have one.
It's understandable. There's a lot.
Yeah, I wish I do. Well, it might be from a different standpoint. I'm sitting here thinking, which one do I dislike the most? And that's the one that I'll pick. But my brain was going through the computer of data, I kept thinking, there's not one that I really, really, really like. And so in sometimes I think in life you might maybe I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
because if if you like something too much, it gets old. And whenever I make music, I'm done. As soon as I put a record out, I very seldom ever play the record again. I just
Oh, wow.
it's almost like it's not even good anymore. And in my mind, and because I already have the next record in my head and how badass I want it to sound, and I'm trying to get that, it's like I'm trying to step up the game a little bit, because I just want to mix the best sounding record with the best sounding songs that everyone in the whole world says it's the best ever that and will ever be.
I'm with
and
it.
and I know, and I put that out there just because I can.
Yeah.
Whether it happens or not, oh come on. I don't, at this point, who cares? But I love having that goal because then I'm never bored and I never stop trying because the more I do it, the better I get, and the more I do it, the more I like it, and it gets to the point where I haven't got bored yet because I haven't run out of ideas. There's always something to say. There's always a riff to rehash again. And there's
I hear
always,
you.
it just doesn't end, especially when you don't have any distractions. I don't
No,
have
that
family, I don't have family, kids, and all that stuff, and tours to do and shows to be on, and I'm kind of retired in some ways, which is pretty cool.
and so no favorite studio album. Do you have a favorite song?
Well, sonically, the Dogman record still kills. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like it's like Black the Sky is the perfect mix ever to me. I mean, it just I've heard some starting to get better mixes nowadays, but that song is a standard for anybody, when it comes to fucking brutal vinyl. Put it on, this is gonna slam you. And Brendan just fucking I mean, he did the dream come true job, because he made us sound like I wanted us to sound. I'm going, this is what we sound like live, I'm going, dude.
I love
Because
that.
he said, what do you want us to do with this record? I'm going, I want you to make us sound like we sound live. I said, our first four records are great. When they sounded experimental, they had all this stuff going on. I said, we just want to go out and just slam.
So the
So,
opposite of Cheap Trick.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That is
Oh,
true. Oh
yeah.
man, the first Cheap Trick record, what a great record that was.
Yeah, it didn't sound like that's why they came out with all those live
Oh
records.
yeah, the
You
first Cheap
know.
Trick record sounded like shit, but I didn't care. I
Yeah.
remember that they were from Chicago. And I remember living in Joliet, which is 20 miles away. And in my apartment, I remember I went and bought that record. They said they're a punk band from Chicago. And I'm going, oh, I put it on. I'm going from Chicago. And I had heard about them. And I put it on and I'm thinking, "Well, this don't sound like the Sex Pistols." And I'm going, and the mix is like really crappy. And these songs are like, but I played the shit out of that record. And I've always, and I think it was Robin Zander's voice,
Mm.
because that boy could sing. He could sing the telephone. I mean, really. Gotta tell you a little story though. I was in a band called okay, before Sneak Preview, and that I started that band in like '74, I think it was. I was in a band called Stone Flower, in 1969, I
Oh,
think it
wow.
was. And we were all high school buddies, and we played Sly and the Family Stone and Chicago Transit Authority stuff. I was a singer. My best friend was a singer, so we had two singers. He's a black dude too. We were both went to high school together. He was my best bud, and the rest of the band was all white, and we had a keyboard player, a drummer, bass player, guitar player, and trumpet saxophone player. And he played sax and I played sax, but I never played it in this band. And so we were playing at the high school in Joliet, my hometown, at this Catholic high school, and the place was packed with kids. And we went out there and did our little thing. We knew high school buddies and stuff. Some of the guys in our band who had friends that went to the high school there or something, you know. So we're playing and we're rocking out. And I remember we got done, and there was this name band called Fuel was playing after us. We were opening for this band that was on Epic Records, and I went and bought the record before. And I was going, man, we're gonna play for all these people. We're excited. And I remember after we get done playing, everybody left. Everybody left.
Oh, man.
Except the guys that I played in the band with. There was like six of us. And we stood down front and watched this band called Fuel play. Or it was Fuse, I think it was. It started with an F. I bought the record and come to find out it was what was it? Um uh uh what's the the guitar player? Rick Nielsen was on keyboards,
Oh, wow.
and Tom Peterson was on bass. And
Mm.
this singer sounded like Ian Gillan on vocals, and they did this kind of proggy, kind of deep purplish kind of music. They put one record out on Epic Records and disappeared. I remember we were on tour with Cheap Trick on our first tour, and I remember it was okay. So this is like 20 years later, right? It meant more actually, and so I walk up there. We were at the table eating, and I said, "Dude, do you guys play in a band called Fuse?" And they both looked at each other and went, no. And they started eating again like frantically. And I go, I got your record. And I just walked away.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
good old days. Mm.
That's great. What's your favorite band that you got to open up for in your career?
AC/DC? Are you
That's
fucking
pretty
kidding
damn
me?
that's a
And
pretty damn good one.
yeah. And the second thing is Woodstock.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I could say maybe Dio. I watched him from the side of the stage every night. It was so amazing. He's one of my favorite singers ever. That was a good time. But AC/DC was the Rolls Royce of the. I mean, they threw us in there on our first record, and we thought we can get used to this. That was it. Well, we did Scorpions. We toured with Scorpions, and we did a couple major tours with some big bands, but still couldn't sell records. You know, that was always the problem is I mean, I remember AC/DC, they wanted us on tour. Angus said that they requested us, but I do know for a fact that they paid 200, Atlantic Records paid $200,000 to get us on that tour also. So, because, they had to pay it because those other record companies would pay that to get their band on there, get Skid Row on there or something, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the money was thrown around was crazy back then. And we got none of it.
Oh, man.
That's what gets me is like I think that's what kills us all is how firsthand we watched how you can sell 1 million records and go home broke. I mean, we can go down the list of super, super, super famous bands that have nothing, and that is it's a sad thing, And we're the
Yeah.
victim. We're victims in our own way, but the damage that was inflicted on us was nothing compared to other people. I mean, we own almost everything now. I think we even got most of our rights back from Atlantic after all these years and stuff. So,
Wow.
everything's good, and like we're making a little money off of things that, re-releasing things and doing things, which now we can because I've got I know we've got, but I've got in my archives some King's X stuff that I can put out now that live shows and just lots of cool things that since we own, we can actually license. Trying to get the Woodstock footage.
Oh, that'd be
That's what I
awesome.
want to get. I mean, they videoed the whole show, the whole
Yeah.
Woodstock show, and we can't get it. It was like somebody said they wanted 50 grand for it or something. Somebody said do a fundraiser or something, but we don't even know if we can find it anymore. We don't even. It's like they don't know who's got the tape. Somebody said
Oh,
they think Clear Channel had it, and somebody said no, Clear Channel doesn't know where it's at. And they said maybe they think the hard drives got burned in the Atlantic fires, and because most of our stuff disappeared there, and there's all this stuff that's happened where
oh
people
yeah.
can't get any money anymore.
I mean, Queen wrote a song, "Death on Two Legs." It was about their manager that screwed them over. So I
Mm,
always think about stuff like that,
mm,
and that was in they had that depicted in
yeah.
the movie as well. Um, Three Sides of One was incredible, by the way.
Thank
It
you.
was awesome. It's something we needed because it had
Good.
been since 2008,
Yeah.
and we.
Yeah.
So how first off, how the hell did you create something so powerful and so beautiful and so
Mm,
authentic, and still you guys, like it didn't feel like it wasn't a King's X record,
mm.
and you hadn't recorded anything since 2008. How did you do that?
Well, we've been playing all the time.
Yeah,
We
no, of
tour,
course, but
so we weren't all rusty or nothing. Ty and Jerry just didn't. They just didn't want to do another record. Um, they have their reasons. And I didn't help matters by going, okay, well, you guys don't want to do nothing. I'm gonna put another band together, PGP.
yeah,
Oh, still don't want to do another record, KXM.
yeah,
Still another record solo.
which
It's
all are
like I
great,
just
by the way.
thank you. And all of a sudden it's like, well, Trace Mountains, let's do a record, Jeff. And then the Hendrix tribute record I put out. And then I just kept putting records out because I write. And I'm not gonna sit at home and just do nothing. And so I just kept doing it and doing it. And then finally things came to a head and they all decided, yeah, let's do a record. And we went to the studio, and I remember the biggest thing I remember about it was that, well, I remember I had suggested that I like experimenting sometimes with things, and I thought, let's just for shits and grins have every song sonically mixed as the genre it sounds like.
Mm.
So take the time, for instance. It sounds like it could be on top 40 radio. It wouldn't get on anything else, but it can easily, sonically, everything mathematically, melodically, even Jerry's voice, which isn't intimidating like mine could be. You know what I'm saying? It's like every song was meticulously done that way. And we didn't do it with it was Michael that did it, the producer. I mean, he heard what I had in mind and he actually executed it. And as a result of it, I know some of the King's X fans had a hard time with it because it didn't sound coherent in some ways. But I remember after doing Swipe Up, I think that was no, it was Flood, I think it was. Oops. Flood was the first song, and I remember going to the studio and hearing us play it back, and I went, "Oh yeah, that is us, isn't it?" It was like I hadn't heard this in so long, recorded wise, that I went, "Oh yeah, there's that magic, that little thing that we do. There's just a way we put things together, and the way we hit things, and the way we're in each other's heads." And I'm like, "Wow!" It's like sometimes you got to get away from something to get it. And so I just kind of chuckled and went, "Well, here we go." And I think for me, it was I needed to hear that to let go of the songs that I wrote and let them be King's X songs, because I write a song and it's done, and then I hand it to King's X, and they're not gonna do it the way I wrote
Yeah.
it. And those things that sometimes they don't want to emulate are the things that made it special to me. But then that's what makes them taking it away from me and making it special to them, which made King's X magic. It's like you got to put the right seasoning in the soup or it ain't gonna taste good. So I get it.
Oh yeah.
But I'm so sensitive about that shit. Um, uh-oh, somebody's texting, but I'll get back later. Um, so, when we made that record, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we all went in with, I mean, well, I know I went in with this with thing of be a team player, Doug. Let everybody do what they want to do. No suggestions. Don't do nothing. Just have fun. Let everybody be themselves. Don't be a control freak. Be good. And so we did actually. We just all went in and there was no stress, no arguing, no pushing, no telling somebody that why don't you try this instead of this. We just all let everybody do what they did, and it came out like it was. I want to do another record where we go in and fight. We need one of those too. I want to do another Dogman type record, not like it sounds like Dogman, but I just wanted to. No, not really, because Rush did that, and Rush's new record just was perfectly hard, heavy, everything you want to hear in Rush.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
and and so that's the way I don't want people to hear King Zisco. Oh yeah, that sounds like Dog Man. It sounds like that.
I
What
don't
was
think
it?
anybody's gonna complain.
That last Soundgarden record. It was a perfect Soundgarden record, but it just sounded like Soundgarden. But it was perfect. It was like we figure it out and write that perfect record, and then after that, if we try to recreate it, it don't work. So I don't know where we're gonna go after this, but I'm thinking that we should make a record that I think I'm gonna suggest that nobody brings any songs in and that we just write from scratch because that's some of our favorite moments. Might not have been our best moments, but like Tapehead and Mr.
Love Tapehead.
Bulbous. Mr. Bulbous and Manic Moonlight were all three records were written by us together. Nobody brought any songs in.
That's
And,
awesome.
and
I like that.
yeah, and I don't know why we didn't do it the last time. I just brought a whole bunch of fucking songs in, and everybody brought songs into it. We just did them. But I'm thinking, let's just, I got enough. I can put another solo record. I don't care.
Does that mean we're gonna potentially get another King's X record?
Oh yeah. I don't know
Okay.
when, but I've mentioned it to them all the time, and everybody says okay. But we'll see what happens. With my camp, it takes a long time to heat us up to get ready to do it. Everybody's just kind of slow at getting excited.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean it's not. I wonder what it is. It's like, well, you just get older and you just that drive is, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we have that drive, but just I mean, if we didn't, we wouldn't be out there doing this. But and then we have to because this is how we make a living still. But retiring is like I like hanging out the house now. I like cutting the grass and taking care of the plants. I don't always want to go out, but I want to write. I mean, I want to keep putting music out. Anyway, I'm babbling now.
Hey, I feel it's weird. I feel like we have a very real similarity there because for me, I always have friends like, yo, you need to get out more. Like, you can't just be making content all day. I'm like, yeah, I can.
Yes, you can.
I absolutely can, and I'm going to
Yes, you
continue
can.
to do it. So I
It's
I totally get that.
good as long as you get out and go walk and do something, get to nature. But yeah, it's okay.
Absolutely. So that is going to do it. I have one more final question for
Yes,
you,
sir.
and then if you could stick around after, that would be great
Okay.
for the thing. But I want to ask you, how do you want to be remembered when it's all said and done?
Um, People have been asking me that lately. I gotta come up with something really clever.
No pressure.
Um, it's it, I don't know. I don't know how I want it to be. I know how some of it will be. because of people that I've known that I've walked behind them and they've done the same thing. And the stories that people have told about me, like they will be legendary when I pass, and I have no control on them, and they'll turn into whatever those stories are. Like I could sit and tell you 100 dime bag stories, and so I guess to be remembered by who we were,
Mm.
how we made you feel. I think that's the best thing because we all know how Don made us feel when we hung out with him. I know how Ronnie James made me feel when I hung out with him. Everybody that I looked up to or listened to, that I always remember what I felt. And some of them I didn't feel good. Some of them broke my heart, you know. And I had to be understanding, because sometimes maybe I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time or stepped into somebody's space where I shouldn't have been. I've been there myself and probably acted the same way and hurt someone's feelings. So I
Mm.
have to remember that, I don't know what's going on in somebody's head, but yeah, it kind of hurts. It's only happened a couple times where I've met one of my heroes and they blew me off like I was, ooh, it hurt my feelings.
It's weird. I know the feeling of that.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna make it obvious because I actually did have them on one of my shows, but it was just more so don't meet your heroes moment. Like, all right, I
Hmm.
gotta go. Definitely not at Doug Pinnick giving me 2 hours of his time. It wasn't like it wasn't like that. So I can't thank you enough. And guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And please, for the love of God, check out King's X if you haven't already. I mean, if you're here, you're probably a King's X fan or a Doug Pinnick fan, or check out King's X. Do it. Check out PGP, check out KXM, check out Grinder
Yeah.
Blues, Pound Hound, all of it. It's so
Solo,
good.
Doug Pinnick solo.
I can't even talk. Strum some
I
up.
yes.
That's like my favorite one. I love that so much.
Have you got Thingamajigger?
The
My
what is that?
latest my latest album.
I don't. I
Shame
need to
on
check that out.
shame on
Actually, I might have that.
you. Okay.
I'm gonna check right now before
All
we.
right.
I have to know if I have it, and then I'll show it to you as proof. But
I
I
believe
probably
you.
do.
Yeah, you don't have to have everything.
Oh, I don't have it. You know what? My dad has it and played it when we were going on vacation last year. That's what it
Cool.
was.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
we will listen to it on our way to Florida because we're driving from New
Okay.
York. So we'll be listening to a lot of King's X during that time.
Oh, awesome.
But Doug, appreciate you, and everyone else appreciate you. Please check out King's X. Follow Doug on all his social medias. I will post them all, below. And
Cool.
yeah, it's been a fun, very fun show. Episode 8 is in the books, and I'll see you guys next time.